Hello, my name is Helena, and today I'm going to share with you something that is rarely discussed openly, but that profoundly affects the lives of thousands of women around the world. I'm going to talk about what happens when a woman goes long periods without intimacy and how Stoic philosophy can teach us to transform this experience into personal growth and self-knowledge. This is a delicate subject, but extremely important, and I promise to be honest and direct with you. For years, I've observed friends, acquaintances, and even lived through the effects of prolonged periods without physical and emotional intimacy myself. Society teaches us that we should always be in relationships, always connected, always available to another. But the truth is that life doesn't always follow that script, and many of us find ourselves navigating alone through seasons we never imagined facing. What I discovered along this journey was surprising and liberating. When a woman goes a long time without intimacy, something profound happens within her. I'm not just talking about the physical absence of a partner or romantic moments. I'm talking about an emptiness that goes beyond the body, that touches the soul and questions our very essence as women. At first, there is denial. We convince ourselves that everything is fine, that we are strong and independent, that we don't need anyone. And while this is true in many ways, it's also a half-truth that hides a fundamental human need: connection. The first few months are relatively easy. We're busy, focused on our goals, on our career, on our personal projects. We fill our days with activities, friendships, family, and hobbies. But as time passes, something begins to change. The absence of touch, of deep gazes, of intimate conversations that go beyond the superficial begins to create a kind of armor around us. We become more closed off, more cautious, more protective of our emotional space. This is where Stoic philosophy enters as a light at the end of the tunnel. The Stoics believed that we cannot control external events, but we can completely control our responses to them. When I began studying Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, I realized that the lack of intimacy in my life was not a sentence of unhappiness, but an opportunity for inner development. The Stoic secret that transformed my perspective was simple, but revolutionary. True intimacy begins within ourselves. A woman who goes long periods without external intimacy invariably develops a deep intimacy with herself, if she is willing to do this inner work. She begins to question herself in ways she never did before. Who am I when I'm not defined by a relationship? What truly brings me joy? What are my fundamental values? What am I willing to accept or not in my life? These questions, though uncomfortable, are the beginning of a journey of self-discovery that many women never have the opportunity to take. The secret I discovered, and that the Stoics taught thousands of years ago, is that our happiness cannot depend on external circumstances. When we place our peace of mind in the hands of another person, or in the presence of a relationship, we are building our house on quicksand. True intimacy, the kind that sustains us through all seasons of life, is what we cultivate with ourselves. It's knowing our own thoughts, accepting our flaws, celebrating our qualities, and creating a relationship of unconditional love with the woman we see in the mirror. During this period of absence of external intimacy, I began to practice what the Stoics called amor fati, love of fate. Instead of fighting against my reality or lamenting the lack of a partner, I began to completely accept my situation and look for what it could teach me. I discovered that there were valuable lessons hidden in this experience. I learned to be self-sufficient, to find pleasure in my own company, to develop hobbies and interests that genuinely fulfilled me. But I won't romanticize this process. There were nights of deep loneliness, moments when I questioned my worth as a woman, days when the absence of physical touch seemed like an impossible hunger to satisfy. The difference is that, through the Stoic lens, I began to see these emotions as a natural part of the human experience, not as something that needed to be immediately resolved or avoided. I learned to sit with my discomfort, to observe it without judgment, and to notice that it eventually passed like all things. What does a woman do when she goes a long time without intimacy? She reinvents herself. She discovers strengths she didn't know she had. She develops an emotional resilience that becomes her greatest ally. She learns that her worth is not tied to male attention or the presence of a relationship. She becomes, paradoxically, more attractive precisely because she no longer needs external validation to feel complete. The Stoics taught us about the importance of virtue above all. For them, virtue was composed of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When I applied these principles to my experience of absence of intimacy, I realized I was developing all these qualities. The wisdom of knowing myself, the courage to be alone without panicking, the justice of not compromising myself out of fear of loneliness, and the temperance of not seeking validation in inappropriate places or people. Another important discovery was that physical intimacy, though wonderful and desirable, is not the only form of deep human connection. I developed more meaningful friendships, more honest conversations with my family, and even a more intimate relationship with nature and my spirituality. The absence of one type of intimacy opened space for other forms of connection that I had neglected. The most powerful Stoic secret I learned was this: our suffering doesn't come from circumstances themselves, but from our judgments about those circumstances. When I stopped judging my situation as bad or unfair, and began to see it simply as different, my suffering decreased drastically. I'm not saying I became indifferent to the desire for intimacy, but rather that I stopped allowing its absence to define my life experience or my self-esteem. Today, I look back and realize that those periods of absence of intimacy were some of the most transformative of my life. They forced me to grow in ways I never would have grown if I had been constantly in relationships. They taught me that I can be happy alone, which ironically made me a much better partner when I eventually chose to be in a relationship again. Because now I choose to be with someone not out of necessity, but out of genuine desire to share my life with another person. The message I want to leave with you is this: if you're going through a period without intimacy, know that there is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken, not inadequate, and certainly not alone in this experience. Use this time to know yourself deeply, to develop your inner resilience, to discover who you are when all distractions are removed. The Stoics taught us that the greatest opportunities for growth come from our greatest challenges. This may be your moment to become the strongest, wisest, and most complete woman you've always had the potential to be. The secret is not in running from solitude, but in diving into it completely and discovering that, on the other side, you are not alone, you have yourself, and that has always been enough.